Alright guys, the nation calls, and we are back with the showdown between the Empire, who shall be led by Karl Franz, and Norsca, who's going to be helmed by Wulfric. So the classic matchup between the men of the South, the men of the Empire with their heavy metal cav. And I think there's like few things in this game that are quite as glorious as just Knights of the Blazing Sun, just Lance's Couch, just riding down Marauders and Berserkers. It is just such a good feeling. It's one of my favorite matchups. It's just from both sides. I mean, I love playing the Empire here. I also really like playing Norsca. It's very fun to be aggressive with the Hounds. It's just so much cool stuff going on. But anyways, we're going to be facing off against Norsca and Wulfric, and let's go ahead and take a look at the army. So two groups of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, which even though, thematically speaking, are probably one of the coolest things in this matchup, they're also very good, I would say, in a competitive sense. So firstly, they have a massive charge bonus of 78. They have a magic resist, which is also helpful against like Fate Abuna, which you do often see. You're going to be seeing Melkos Mystifying Miasma go off on these guys. You're going to be seeing Fate Abuna occasionally with the Lore of Death. So I feel like they're pretty good on, because of the magic resist as well. 40 melee attack and the weapon strength of 42 plus that charge bonus is going to be able to just absolutely melt the Norscan infantry. Marauder Spearmen have 15 armor. Standard Marauders are 15, Berserkers are 15, so I mean pretty lightly armored across the board. So if you catch them unbraced, the spears that is, or pretty much any of the troops, they're going to be taking massive punishment from the Knights of the Blazing Sun. And on top of that, the fire damage is pertinent. If you're facing off against Skin Wolves, which are an anti-large troop, they're going to be taking extra damage from the fire, and there are also a couple other units on the Norscan roster that I think take a little bit of extra damage from fire. So two groups of the Knights of the Blazing Sun going to be sweeping around trying to have some fun. You do need to watch out for like Famir, and these guys can be dragged down by the Norscans if they get like some Frost Hounds or if they have throwing axes. And it looks like my opponent does have a couple groups of Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes, so very good pick there. But to counter the throwing axes, I do bring two groups of the Pistoliers. So these guys have pretty good range at 80. I think it's 10 more than the throwing axes who have 70. And yeah, they hit pretty hard against lightly armored targets with 38 missile damage. Not the best against like heavy armor like Famir, but typically Norsca goes very wide with like Marauders and just trying to swarm around your Empire formation. So two Pistoliers here. We got Karl Franz up in the skies, and he's just too heavy metal not to bring. The nation calls, and we're here, and he's coming in with Gal Maraz, 490. I mean, if he gets the jump with a popped Gal Maraz just coming in on Wulfric, he's going to be able to beat the brakes off Wulfric. And he's really good against big armor, sniping lords, going after Famir casters. He's just awesome. But if you do bring Karl, you really need to make sure you have healing, because if you don't, he can be nuked, caught by hounds. Lots of bad stuff can happen. But Karl Franz, probably my favorite pick in this matchup. Aside from that, we're going to be going with the good old pike and shot. We have the halberdiers in the front line. These guys are, a pretty good insurance against like Famir play as well, but they have charge defense against all, and Norscans do have good charges. And yeah, anti-large armor piercing, high melee defense, they're going to be able to hold, and yeah, they will lose inevitably to like Berserkers and other troops like that, but they're just such a cool troop, and they do hold for quite some time. We got a couple guns in the back, so handgunners here and the silver bullets over here, so not going too wide. I didn't want to make that mistake of going too wide, not being able to protect everything. So I have the silver bullets. I do also have the handgunners here. Two groups of spears in the back to help defend against hounds and other pressuring tools. The Royal Outdwarf Griffites, which are also quite good because they cause terror. So Demogryph Knights are pretty good in this matchup anyways, against Famir, Skin Wolves, big targets, Wulfric, Mammoths, you name it. But these guys cause terror. And Norsca doesn't have the best leadership. They do have Frenzy on a lot of their troops, but even still, in the late game, these guys can terror out and are very, very effective. A Jade Wizard as well is going to be pretty much it. And for my opponent's army, a very wide Norscan force. Marauders in the front line, Berserkers in the secondary. A couple Marauder champions with great weapons in the back, or actually just one. Just in case I go, heavy duty with great swords, he's going to have a natural counter. Spears on the flanks, he does have the Miststalkers, which are a very good choice because these guys are stalking. So they're going to be able to stalk through the mist. I won't be able to shoot them until they're very close, and generally they can get their values. These guys are pretty spooky for sure. Two groups of throwing axes, which I love. Very, very good pick from my opponent. These guys are going to be able to outrun the Knights of the Blazing Sun and get them with really good armor-piercing attacks potentially. So I like this a lot. My opponent has a very, very good army. He's got Big Daddy Wulfric as well, and it looks like Wulfric is going to be on horseback. So Karl definitely will be the superior duelist here with the better armor-piercing, and but Wulfric does have some good buffs as well. If he does like catch Karl in a bad position, he's able to get Hunter of Champions. Things can get pretty ugly pretty quick. So my apologies for the long-winded intro. Let's get the show on the road. So Berserkers here are going to be taking some light pistolier fire here in the back. Definitely not happy about that, but my opponent is going to be pausing them, then sending forward the Marauders, so then I don't have enough range to kind of get back there and poke them. Knights of the Blazing Sun looking for free charges, but I do see the Horsemen coming out, so I'm going to be switching all my focus fire onto the Marauder Horsemen, trying to pick these guys apart and hopefully able to do some pretty good damage. In the meantime, my Silver Bullets, he does come in range of them. Of course, they have stock, so he didn't see those guys, and was able to kill 6 of these guys. They're shaken, might be able to break them, but nonetheless, I did not want to get to the 4th because most Norscan players this is like the classic ambush. You just have some Ice Wolves back here, and if you overextend, they come back and they just kind of give you the business and they kill your Pistoliers. But playing very carefully, Karl Franz is going to be going in for a free charge right here, just going to be jumping on the Marauders. I knew he had all of his resources over here, so I was like, let's get a freebie. Let's come in. We'll probably be able to kill at least 5 or 6 models. Carl has killed, looks like 3 models right now, and should be able to do a little bit more damage on the way out. In the meantime, Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to be rotating over, so I send one group over here. I did see his Ice Wolves and all of his other troops, so I'm like, okay, let's get this one Knights of the Blazing Sun, go over here, kind of feign an engagement. I'm not going to take it, probably. I might attack the Ice Hounds, but the Knights of the Blazing Sun going to be coming in with just a fat righteous charge into those guys, led by the Emperor. That is such a cool-looking shot, and Karl Franz just snatches one up in the air and drops him. Just, that is why you play Warhammer right there. So we're able to just pound out those Marauders. They're shaken, and pretty good value. We do have to run because Wulfric is here, and I don't want to get too caught up. We're just going to be rotating side to side, just getting beautiful charges into these Marauders. And in the meantime, the Knights of the Blazing Sun are able to finish off some of the Norscan Ice Wolves, and they're going to be defending the Pistoliers, which is definitely pretty cost effective. So right now, the Norscans are going to be advancing. We've gotten some really good shock damage right out of the gates. Marauders took a beating. These ones took a beating as well from the Knights of the Blazing Sun. We get another double charge right into these guys. They're also taking pistol fire. So far, the damage has been pretty devastating. Granted, we have invested in that. We put a lot of resources into the Knights of the Blazing Sun to kind of do this type of work. And if they didn't, we would be in a little bit of trouble. So Marauders are going to be slamming into the front line. The Halberds, of course, braced, and the Emperor is going to be jumping in to help them as well. And they do have charge defense against all, but it looks like Karl is going to be, taking out a little bit of a pent-up rage there on his own troops, but they'll get back up. They're fine. It's like that scene in Star Wars when the Ewoks, they're okay, they're going to get back up. But anyways, Berserkers are coming in. So this is where things are going to get a little bit scary for my front line, but I do sweep across my Knights of the Blazing Sun, realizing I need that help in the front line. Let's ride these guys down, support the Halberds, and the Demogryph Knights are going to be going right up the pipe with that terror and just massive heavy metal charge onto the front line. And the Norscans are definitely feeling the pain. Some of these troops here are in a lot of trouble. Berserkers and Marauders pretty much done for. Over here, a pretty overwhelming formation. Champions and Marauders and Spearmen and all these other guys are getting in here. And I do try and get through with my Knights of the Blazing Sun, but it looks like some of them do overcharge, and they get charged by the Miststalkers and some of these throwing axes. So suddenly, my Knights of the Blazing Sun, who've been in really good shape this entire game, are in a little bit of trouble. And over here, make it a cataclysmic, just huge mistake. So the Halberds are holding at my spears. My hounds, or my opponent's hounds, are actually chasing down my Pistoliers. So he's done a pretty good job on this flank. Now over here, it's pretty heavy dominance. The Empire is one that's just hands down. We pounded out the front line. The Miststalkers are now taking focus fire from all of my handgunners. It's going very well. But right here, Wulfric is able to isolate my Jade Wizard. Nice slipped up. The Jade Wizard against Norsca, it should just be in the back, hiding with spears. I made a huge mistake, and this could certainly cost me the game here. So my Jade Wizard does get hunted by Wulfric. He's going to be getting beaten down, and there's no way he's going to be escaping. The Hunter of Champions, this is what Wulfric is really good at. I mean, negative leadership. His speed is now 13. The Frostwolves are here. He's going to be getting killed. So I am out a healer. So any damage I do take on like Karl or any of my expensive troops like the Royal Altar of Griffites, who would have benefited hugely from the heals right here, it's going to be permanent. So things are looking a little bit tough. I mean, it was a very good initial fight, but suddenly my opponent with a very good snipe right there is able to kind of pull his way back into the game. So the Knights of the Blazing Sun here are getting dragged down by these Ice Wolves and some of these other troops. Demogryph Knights are going to be charging in, but Karl is pissed about the Jade Wizard. He's going to be jumping in there, going after Wulfric, and he's able to get no damage on the charge, but from here, Galmaros is popped, and Feebling Foe popped as well, so very good play from my opponent, but we should be able to punish Wulfric. We get in there, you can see Wulfric's taking some pretty huge damage already, and the Royal Altar of Griffites are piling in. Pistoliers, or excuse me, the handgunners in the back doing some really good work against the Miststalkers. My opponent's been really good with his boats and his pendulums. Beautiful stuff, just wrecking the silver bolts here in the back line. And suddenly, Norsca looks like they're in a pretty good position in the front line now that kind of my tactical play has fallen apart, and the bounce power is in his favor. However, Wulfric just gets shown who's boss here by Karl. Karl comes in with Galmaraz, and of course Wulfric was on a horse, so he was considered a large target. We were able to just punish him and kill him. So Wulfric the Wanderer has fallen to Karl Franz, the Emperor, and we're going to have to regroup a little bit. So in the back here, some of these Spearmen are chasing down my handgunners, some of the Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in from the rally, and they are going to be supported by some spears, so we should be able to finish off these Spearmen pretty easily. They're shaken with 19 leadership, and if Karl Franz comes in, I need to just focus on securing my backline position right now. Use my tattered troops, and the Royal Altar of Griffites still have 15 models. They cause terror. Karl causes terror. So there's a lot of options I have for kind of securing this backline position. But in the back line, those Hounds have done a very good job. One group of Pistoliers has just been chased into the Shadow Realm by those Norscan Ice Wolves. My other group of Pistoliers is in pretty good shape, just shooting at Berserkers and other targets. But over here, my Knights of the Blazing Sun are terrified and finish off with a Melkos Misfine Masba. So just a super close fight, and the bounce of power is still in my opponent's favor. He has the Miststalkers, he has his Caster, he has throwing axes, and he has a lot of healthy infantry. And these brave Spearmen of the Empire are going to be trying to hold back the tide of Norsca, allowing the handgunners to fight a little bit. Classic pike and shot, but it's going to be tough. I don't know how much longer they're going to be able to hold against these guys. But then Karl Franz comes in, the glowing eagle from the sunset, just doing huge damage against these guys, and he's going to be rallying. It's literally the cinematic trailer for Warhammer just all over again. From here, Karl Franz should be able to tear out these guys. The Berserkers probably have lost their frenzy from being so beat up. And the Terror is really the name of the game in this late game here. Over here, the Royal Turf Gryphites are able to collapse on the Miststalkers, and they're doing some really good work. I mean, they do have Enfeebling Foe. My opponent very, very good with his magic play here, but we should be able to finish off the Miststalkers. The Handgunners are going to be falling back, trying to reform ranks to then shoot at the Miststalkers once more, but I think we're going to get them. We do have Spearmen here as well, so we have a lot of good troops, but the Miststalkers might be able to pile through. Karl Franz is going to need to come back and certainly make sure that I can finish those guys off. In the back, there were some hounds coming back, which could have been really bad, actually, but I do turn the handgunners here at the last second, and we're going to be fending off some of these doggos, and from there, they should be running off the edge of the map. Halberds and spearmen just doing their thing. Not a lot of kills, but really, really good resiliency, just kind of holding here, doing their job. Some of these marauders have kind of squeaked through the cracks, so they're going to be pushing into the back line, but the guns are going to be able to finish them off, and the Terror, Karl, plus the Royal Turf Gryphites just doing beautiful work this game, and that's why you bring these guys. I mean, that Terror is so valuable. So from here, the bounce fire is pretty normal. He does have his caster fighting in the pits here, the Bale Fiend. He does also have Berserkers and Marauder Champions with great weapons. 58 models coming back in, which is a little bit tough. But basically at this point, you just need to kind of clean up the scraps. You look around the battlefield, look for anything that's beaten and tattered, isolate it, take advantage of your mobility. Granted, he does have some okay counters in the Marauder Horsemen, but realizing this, I'm going to be training all guns on those guys. I have the 59 handgunners right here, 41 of the silver bullets, and I know that if these guys are able to get any volleys on Karl, that could be disastrous. So I'm going to be putting all my gunfire into the Horsemen, trying to break those guys, and the Bale Fiend comes in and actually gets a really good attack on Karl. He's able to do some good damage. So at this point, I'm like, oh, if I lose Karl, I'm going to lose this game 100%. So I need to pull back, I need to get out of there, but we are able to break off the Marauders and those other troops right there. And the bounce power for the first time of the game is going to be normalizing. He was ahead for most of the battle once he was able to get my caster, and I lost my healing, and that whole flank kind of collapsed from that. But from here, we're going to be falling back with the Spearmen, pulling the Familiar Balefiend into open field, and you're going to see the bounce power is going to start to kind of switch in my favor a little bit, as Karl Franz is going to be bouncing over here to deal with these infantry, and the Royal Altdorf Gryphites just living up to their name, definitely making Altdorf proud. We're going to be charging in and terror routing these guys. Just the double terror is just too much for these very beat up infantry to handle. And the Balefiend's getting shot to pieces by the handgunners, and at this point, it's probably going to be over. I don't think he has enough troops to kind of deal with Karl, who is relatively healthy, plus the Gryphites and just all these guns who have, you know, ample ammunition. We're able to shoot down the champions. We're able to kite back, because why take that fight? These spearmen don't need to be fighting this. I have the guns, I have the mobility, and yeah, we can definitely take advantage of that. So the Balefiend's going to be running, trying to regroup a little bit, but from there, my opponent is going to be out, and that is going to be all she wrote. So well played. It was a super, super close game. I mean, initially, I really just thought I had the game in the bag. I was like, I have this. I'm going to just run over his infantry. We're getting so much value before the fighting even really starts, but my opponent had very good focus. His pendulums were insane. He had so many good pendulums down the lines of my halberds, my guns, was able to really shut that down initially. He also had really good enfeebling foes. Anytime there was a clutch combat, he was able to get those off. And on top of that, his kind of a counter punch with going in with Wulfric and finishing off my caster made that a super close game. So very well played to Tony. I honestly think his build is really good. I wouldn't recommend changing too much. I think it was great. It was wide, and it really just came down to a couple, you know, minor plays. And as far as this build goes, I think it's pretty strong. I do like the pike and shot and halberds in case they do overload with big armor and, like, you know, charging. I think having the halberds is pretty good. And yeah, it felt pretty good to me. It was quite a bit of fun, and that's it for now. So very well played to my opponent, Tony Cam. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Empire vs. Norsca game. We will see you guys next time. Take care.